Hey guys, it's Carly and welcome back to Body Bags. I am your Tuesday reviewer, of course, and this week's theme is summer camp horror film. So I decided to go with Sleepaway Camp Part 2. This is one I haven't watched in quite a while, so I figured it would be a nice idea to revisit it. And Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. Basically the plot here is it's supposed to be 5 years after the events of Sleepaway Camp Part 1, and Angela has been removed let out of the mental institution, rather, and she is now a camp counselor at a new camp called Camp Rolling Hills, which is supposed to be like a couple miles from the original camp, Camp Arawak, I think it's called, or something like that, yeah. So, it's basically just Angela. She's at a new camp. She's had an official sex change to be a woman. She's going by the same name Angela, but with a different last name to protect her identity, and she's back to her old ways of killing people who she feels are breaking the rules. They're bad campers and things like that. So basically just another slasher taking place on a camp. There's no secret, of course, to who is doing the killings. We all know who Angela is at this point, and of course, the character of Angela was recasted by Pamela Springsteen, and, first things first, I always kind of wish they could have got Felissa Rose to play in sequels. Of course, she's in Return to Sleepaway Camp for a little bit, but, I always thought it would be cool to see, actual legit sequels with her in them. I don't know, but I feel like at the same time for these movies, Part 2 and 3 of Sleepaway Camp, the role that is being played here, I don't think she would have fit it well. So I think Pamela Springsteen does a good job in the role she's supposed to be playing, because honestly the character does not feel at all like the original character, where you had, of course, this shy girl who barely talks at all throughout the whole movie, and she has a very innocent look to her, and, no one's really suspecting her. In this movie, she's more talkative. Obviously, she's a counselor, so she's got to be a little more animated. She's very into camping and things like that. She thinks it's great when everyone follows the rules of camp. That's kind of the story they kind of build for her. And, I think it's just kind of funny that they look at Part 1, then they're like, what are we going to do for a sequel? And they're like, okay, let's just make it so this girl is now kind of obsessed with camping, and that's her entire story arc. I just think it's kind of funny, but yeah, I think she does an excellent job in the role she's playing. I was just always interested in seeing the original actor maybe do actual sequels to the first one, because this movie really, it's got a totally different vibe than the first one did. Obviously they're both kind of cheesy, but in different ways. In this one you have Angela, she's got a lot of one-liners and things like that, and the deaths are, they're kind of solid in this one. I'd say Part 3 has better deaths, but there's one in this that is pretty brutal. It's one of the worst. It involves fire, and that's one of the worst ways to die. In my head, I think that would just be the suckiest way to go. And then, of course, there's also a pretty gross one in this as well. Won't get too into that. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this movie by now, but, I don't want to give everything away. The acting is okay. It's your typical 80s slasher, cheesy acting at times, but it's not horrible or anything like that. I really like the camp setting. I'm really into camp settings, so I really enjoy this theme week. I really like at the beginning of the movie, they're telling stories around a campfire. I always love that. You see that in movies such as The Burning or Friday the 13th Part 2, and I love scenes like that because it reminds me of growing up when I was a Girl Scout, and we actually went camping, and we were trying to do the same thing when we were 10-year-olds, but it was the same sort of feel, and it always kind of makes me want to go back to camp just for nights like that, sitting around the fire telling scary stories. I really like that vibe. But overall, Sleepaway Camp Part 2, it's one, I enjoy it. It's not my most favorite slasher film of all time. It's one that I do go back to, but not as much as I would like the Friday the 13th sequels and things like that. I definitely prefer part 1 over this. I just like the general feel of part 1, and I always wish that these would have had a little more continuity behind them, because all you really have is the character Angela, and she kind of mentions her like crazy aunt at times throughout this movie, but I almost wish you would have had a character like the aunt or her cousin back in this film. I'm just really big on stories continuing like that, so I think it's pretty interesting. Another thing I wanted to point out was there's 2 brothers in this film who are kind of like, little perverts. They're going around taking pictures of girls naked, and I just realized this. Their names are Charlie and Emilio, and I was like, wait, that's like Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, who are brothers. And it's funny, actually, on the back cover, there is an actress in this, Renee Estevez, who is the sister of those 2. So I never realized that. That's actually pretty cool, because I noticed it while watching it, and I'm just now reading that on the back cover. So yeah, that's just some bonus content. But anyway, yeah, Sleepaway Camp 2, not terrible by any means. Definitely a fun ride. Got some decent kills. Pretty fun, like, cheese fest of a story. And yeah, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Yes, I also hate these covers, by the way, too. Like, they have nothing to do with the movie. But yeah, anyway, 7.5 out of 10 for Sleepaway Camp Part 2. Thank you guys for joining me for this Tuesday review, and I'll see you next week here on Body Bags.